So I sort of have a question. Let's say you're not in anywhere near a park or anything like that. So if you're just in suburbia in the city, what are some of the things that you guys use to sort of put yourself in nature, quote unquote, in nature in your houses? Is it plants? Is it, you have it? I know they have like I use an app try to use an app for meditation that has water and so on and so forth. I mean, what is it that you guys use? Because sometimes you just don't feel like going out. So what do you guys use if you're not going out for a run? If you're not, if you're just, man, I just don't feel like going out and I'm just going to hang in the house. How do you set that scenario, that scene in your house?
Go ahead, Weber. You got this one. I gotta pee.
That's a pretty good question.
Before you start, this was one of my questions, and I'll just I'm going to read what I had written because it follows along with Brian's question, but it's from this study that I was referencing. So half the world's population lives in an urban setting. Urbanization is expected to increase to 68% by the year 2050. Do you think urban suburbanites can get similar benefits from a semi-natural environment like walking path, cycling trail, city park, or other? And so I just wanted to kind of, I said I would address the questions I had beforehand. So Brian nailed it. So go ahead, bud.
And not knowing where you live, sometimes like just going outside, period. I mean, if you're in a suburban area, I would say being outside to me sometimes seems better than being inside, even if you're at a city or a suburban area. I've lived in, a few different places. I lived in townhomes, and one thing that we would do is we would just take a walk sometimes. It's not always feasible to take a walk, but I will say just getting outside and just getting under the sunshine, it may not have the same hard impact that being out in the middle of the wilderness might have. But it's definitely better than sitting inside if that's what you're looking for. I used to when I lived in that townhome area, I would just kind of walk around and I would find different places to go to, like in the area, and it was just kind of like a walk. Basically, it could be a 10-minute walk or a 20-minute walk or a 30-minute walk. And sometimes I would think about like, oh, I wonder what's over here. And then it's not exploring in nature like Durbo was doing while he was on his run. It gives you somewhere to go, something to get to, something to look for. And that is not like the perfect substitute, but that would just be my answer. Vitamin D is like a huge thing that we get from just being outside in the sunshine. There's plenty of benefits from that. Just being in the sunshine and having that convert into vitamin D for your body. We've got a guy at our shop where we work, and he's pretty smart. He'll sit inside if we're doing admin work or whatever, and he just say, this is fucking stupid, I'm going to go stand outside for 5-10 minutes, and that's what he does. And he can't go take a hike or a walk in nature or anything like that, but if he can go take a 5-10 minute break, stand outside, breathe the air, as crappy as it may be, this is just one example I could give.
Doug reminded me too of like, I forget the term for it, but the seasonal depression disorders, like, where you have a lot of folks.
Sad.
Yeah, right. And this time of year, a lot of us have been stationed in Europe and stuff, and holy crap, you could go, months with just a gray sky, not a hint of sunshine. Thinking of Alaska too, where it's sort of kind of messes with you. And there's all these different light therapies you can do. And I've experimented with a few of those. Like I have a really bright ring light that I have that sits in front of my computer. And so first thing in the morning, if I can't get sad season affective disorder, how could I forget that? if I can't go outside, when I wake up in the morning, just kind of sit with a cup of coffee and absorb some sun, if I can't do that, then can artificial light stimulate that same result? And so these are all great questions that tie into, okay, so we get it. Forest bathing, therapy works. We all can kind of agree that we feel better in nature. There is a power there to it, and it maybe ties back into something primal about ourselves. But what about people who just have never been in the woods their entire life? How many times have we gone to basic training and talked to somebody like, I never learned how to drive a car. What are you talking about? No, I'm from the city. I didn't need to, it just, staggering sometimes. Like, you've never been in the woods. No, I was an urban kid my whole life. So, what if you can't get it? Like, how can you artificially create it? Or the antithesis of this whole question was, my second one was, for people who live and work and play in the forest, in the woods, in nature. I kind of came onto this thought a couple weeks ago when I was at Mario's, for people who live in the woods and walk around in it every day or work in it and whatnot, do they feel that benefit of nature all the time? Are they like totally always happy and stuff like that? And I think Mario answered my question for me, was habituation plays into that. Can you have too much of a good thing to where the benefit kind of levels off and you're like, okay, now I need something else. I need more sympathetic because I'm full on parasympathetic. I need some sympathetic to add a little stress to my life, because I just, I'm out here vibing by the creek all the time and I just don't know anything else. So it doesn't have that same kick to me. But if I, visited the city for the weekend and realized how good I have it, is that the thing you need to do? I don't know. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking along the lines, I know this is sort of off topic, but it's not. But you're getting the parasympathetic because you're stressed. You're putting your body in with nature and so on and so forth. But I don't think, I don't think having too much of a good thing is a bad thing. But I think it could be lost if you don't have a purpose. If you don't have something else that sort of maybe works with the nature and so on and so forth. If you have a purpose that you're out there doing, and let's say it's raking your garden or planting trees or doing whatever the hell it is, getting your hands in the earth. So you're not just out there, to release the stress, but you're also doing that work. I think that would be something that would be more along the lines of you're getting, you're using one rock. I can't even remember the damn term. My fucking brain's gone off. Sorry. But
you're in the right spot. You're among friends. Trust me. It happens to me. Okay. Brad has to kind of pick up my slack almost every single time. I got it. 2 birds, 1 stone. 2 birds, 1 stone. That's what I was going to say. That's what I meant. But I think if there's a sense of purpose and you're out there for something, not just to walk or run or whatever, I think that's a double, it's double joy. I don't know if you want to, whatever you want to call it. That would be my idea, though.
Hey, let me throw this back at you. I think that is actually supported by these studies. So my thought was, before Mario gave his thoughts on habituation, was maybe part of this thing is, like you said, purpose. You have to be intentional. You have to just not be in the woods. You have to be intentional about engaging the sensory perception of being in the woods. Like just driving through it, isn't it? Part of this Japanese study that was done by the Japanese Forestry Agency even found out that just viewing this, looking at nature, does something for you. But to be in the woods and feel the benefit, the therapeutic dose that you need, what they indicated was it needed to be 2 to 4 hours in the forest with a combination of activities such as walking, standing, lying, sitting, deep breathing, right? So now you're doing other things, like you said, the purpose, You're in nature now. You're practicing a form of meditation or presence where you're deep breathing, you're engaging your senses, right? So sight, sound, touch, smell, sometimes taste, and exploring the surrounding forest. I wouldn't recommend eating a bunch of strange mushrooms unless you know what you're doing. Chicken of the woods, right? But immersion in nature with a mindful use of all senses, and that's where they came from with the study, was the physical and mental health benefits that reduce stress, anxiety, and depression symptoms, as well as improving mood and relaxation, were all tied to a mindful presence of being in nature. So yeah, I think that kind of ties into what you're saying with purposeful being in nature. You know, you have to kind of like, you got to kind of make it work. You know what I mean? Be intentional about it and be like, okay, here I am, I'm open to this. Or so, and in other words, like, for example, you're in the woods, you're vibing, it's waterfalls crashing behind you, you're in the Alps, you know, it's beautiful, you're above the clouds, and you're dicking around on your phone, you know, scrolling through Facebook. Are you getting the benefits at that moment just by physically being there, or are you focused on something that you shouldn't be focusing on? So kind of makes sense in that construct.
Go ahead, Webb.
That's a good point. Yeah, when I was mentioning when we were living in that townhome, a lot of times when I would go out for a walk, I'd usually have my dog or my dogs with me. So that was kind of like the purpose, like you were talking about, why to be outside. At other times when we were there, we had some, we really wanted a garden, but we didn't have any space for it. So we just had a couple of flower pots that we would put on the back deck. So we would go stand out on the back deck and, like, you know, water the flowers, or just basically be standing outside. When we did move into another place we were at, we had a garden, and a lot of times we would go outside, and we had a bit of a bigger yard, so we would play with the dogs, and then we would water the garden or harvest, you know, some tomatoes or whatever it was. So it was purposeful, and yeah, it wasn't just like go stand outside and be like, bestow your benefits upon me, nature. It was definitely purposeful. So that was a good point. But you could try this one. That's
dude, I could totally see you doing that
every day.
And then turning your head and being like, why isn't it working?
This nature stuff's for the birds. Something we do here right now is, obviously we're outside with the dogs usually several times a day, and we have one of the ways we heat our house, we have a wood stove, so carry some wood around outside. And then, so you go outside, the dogs are there, you throw the ball for the dogs, bring the baby outside so he can see. We've got a bunch of birds here where we live, so sometimes we'll put up bird houses, and then, you know, we'll go and just look at the birds, but we'll stand outside. And then what I try to do is I'll stand in one spot and I'll put bird feed in my hand, and then it just never works. But that's just basically me standing outside saying, bestow your benefits upon me, nature. But yeah, that was a good point. It is nice to have something to do rather than just to go stand out there. Are there some things that you have by where you're at that you would do, like a garden or walk your dogs, cut the grass?
I wouldn't call those nature stuff, but yeah, we had we had a start of a garden, and I killed it. So I don't know if I overfed it or underfed it, overwater it, underwater it. But we got 1 acre, and we're going to try and make this more of a sustainable. It's sort of in the country, but it's not. But I want to make it sustainable. So we planted trees. We got chickens for eggs and stuff. Hey, but for me, it's just difficult sometimes. I look at it instead of going and enjoying nature. For me, it's a chore. It's a checklist item. I have to go out. I have to take care of the chickens. I have to feed them. I have to clean their coop. Instead of going out there and just doing it for the joy of doing it, it's more along lines. It's a task for me, and for me, that just personally it just drains the life right out of me. I don't enjoy it as much. I like going outside. Other than I'm in Florida, so in the summer the weather's fucking horrible. But right now, like it's in the lower 70s. It's sunny out for most part, so it's nice out there. But I still find myself, I don't know, I'll call it trapped on my couch. I got out. I got out I got out of the military in a bad way, and it's just been beating me up for the last 2 years. And it's just, I can't. I have a hard time working out. It's just a lot of barriers that I'm going through. I'm going through counseling. I do counseling once a week and stuff, but I mean, this progress is fucking killing me. It's so slow, and I have a hard time motivating myself to get out into nature. It's something I'd like to do. I want to get back to running. I want to do all this stuff, but that's why I asked about inside. Because for me, it's it's getting that motivation. It's getting over all the bad thoughts, like Gerbo was saying, and everybody's saying right now. For me, it's once I start going down that path, I can't pull out of that nosedive. I have a hard time pulling out of the nosedive. So,
what do you like?
We have the space to do it, but I just, the impetus, the move to do it is just, it's killing me right now. So yeah, I do have nature around me, but I don't know.
Well, what do you like to do that doesn't feel like a chore?
That's a good question. I have no fucking clue. I haven't found my post-retirement mission, scope, purpose. I try a bunch of different stuff. There's tons of groups. There's groups here. There's Vets on Water and so on and so forth. And one day I'm like, I'm gonna do this. And the next day it's like, I'm gonna fucking do that. It's so. It's me getting in the way of myself right now for doing that stuff. But
are you trying to motivate yourself alone? Do you have any? Are you trying to do it by yourself?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have my wife here, but she works nights, so I am by myself. Because when she's sleeping during the day, I'm at home. She's at home too, but she's sleeping. So, yeah, it's an alone type thing. So, and then once you as well, maybe not you guys, but for me, once I got out, it's sort of stayed away. I stayed away. For me, I don't feel that connection that I used to with the EOD guys. I'd reach out to guys and I wouldn't hear from them. They wouldn't reply. Guys that I knew for 20, 25 years, wouldn't give me the time of day. And that bitterness, it's grown bitterness, a little bit of bitterness for me personally. They're still great guys. That's not the point, but just to get back. So that's my impetus. It's just, I'm trying to get the fuck out of the house and, and I'm hoping the nature stuff gives me more drive to work out and, eat, the whole thing, work out, eat healthy, so on and so forth, get a more stable life. Because right now, nothing for me is stable. It's all built in sand. So sorry about that rant. Apologize.
Is your last name Fleming? Brian Fleming? Can I tell a funny story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Time hack in case we have to delete it at 1:43 and go.
Okay. Listen, nobody anymore likes to talk about EOD school. It's kind of like one of those things, I guess, like, anyway. I always like to tell this story. I don't tell very many EOD school stories, but this is my favorite story to tell. we were in the prac area, and we were doing practice problems on, I don't know, it's fucking bombs or something. And we go through and we do our practice problems, and then we take our papers over to Sergeant Fleming, and he's sitting there, and he's grading, he's looking at our papers and this and that. And he's like, okay, and he's walking around to each station, you know, each practice area, and he grabs somebody's paper, and I can't remember his name. I think it was Sampson, and he was like, "What the fuck is this? Oh, what the fuck is this? Oh, hell fucking no. Nope. Just fucking read and marking this paper up." And he's like, "Hold on a second. Oh, okay. I see what you did here. You didn't use the 60 series. You used the fucking Sampson series. This is brilliant. Let me fix all this here. Fucking Sampson series all the way. 100%. Goes around to the rest of the people in the whole fucking prac area. Give me your fucking paper. No. Minus 16, not in accordance with Sampson series. Every motherfucker out there in the prac area. That was the funniest shit I had ever seen the whole fucking time I was there. I've never forgotten that. It's my favorite story to tell. That was the funniest shit in the whole fucking world.